Hey there, I'm Kelly, and I met John not long after I graduated from college. His charm and ambition carried me off my feet. We were living in the condo he purchased to our wedding before I knew it. Married. Though not extravagant, it was ours, and I cherished every bit of it. Soon after arrived our daughter Sarah. She was ideal, my curly hair and John's blue eyes. We had everything, I thought. A loving family, a comfortable house, and bright futures for our careers. I started working for a little but expanding company as a secretary. Though the salary was not outstanding, I appreciated the work and got along with my colleagues. John, on the other hand, was climbing up at his building company. He had returned home bearing tales of major projects and even more extensive offers. Though his long hours meant I was usually alone with Sarah, I was proud of him. But John underwent changes with time. Late on his way home, his eyes tightened with mistrust. "Who phoned?" he could demand. "Why were you all dressed up?" I shrugged it off first, but gradually his envy started to stifle me. I confronted him one night following his grilling of me regarding a work function. "You consider me to be cheating." "With who, John? The postal man?" He did not flash a smile. "Kelly, don't pretend to be dumb. Men gaze at you, and I find that. And then that manager of yours. He's happily married, John, with 3 kids. I interrupted. "And your wife, for God's sake, loved you." But my comments went unappreciated. The disagreements started to happen more often. Each one bit apart our marriage. I was loyal, always had been, always would be, but John's mistrust permeated every aspect of our life like poison. Sarah was wonderfully oblivious through it all. Her world at 10 years old was centered on her iPad, friends, and classroom. Though children often know more than adults realize, I attempted to keep her away from our arguments. I could not lose the irony in this. John was the one who regularly arrived home late and traveled for business. I was the one with cause to be dubious. Still, I knew he was reliable. In our vows, in our love, I thought, why couldn't he act in the same manner? One evening, unable to sleep after a particularly violent argument, I discovered myself staring at the ceiling. Though John's quiet snores dominated the room, I felt worlds far from him. And how had we arrived here? Love had evolved into skepticism when? Reliance on accusations? I considered leaving, considering grabbing Sarah and beginning again. But where would we travel to? On a secretary's pay, what sort of life could I offer her? And I still loved John in spite of all. I yearned for the man I used to know, the man I imagined he may be once more. Life sent me another curveball, just when I felt things couldn't be more confusing. The rock I had always rested on, my mother, had a stroke. We all staggered when it struck out of nowhere. Mom was always the model of health. She threw herself into book clubs and gardening after Dad passed away, resolved to live life to the utmost. Thanks to Dad's life insurance and wise investments, she lived in this lovely mansion in the upscale section of town. I used to make jokes about her supposedly leading the life of a retired movie star. Still, that Tuesday morning altered everything. I received the call in front of work. Mom lost her ability to move her left side or talk. Heart in my throat, I sped to the hospital. The next several weeks were a haze of doctors, hospitals, and horrific medical jargon. Desperate for someone to say Mom will be fine, I visited every excellent clinic in the area. Still, the odds were not great. Her stroke left her bedridden and in constant need of round-the-clock care. I felt overrun. How could I look after Mom, handle my work, look after Sarah, and simultaneously cope with John's jealousy? It seemed like slow-motion drowning. John then had an idea out of the blue. One evening over dinner, he remarked, "We should move into your mom's house." I choked almost on my noodles. "What?" "Kelly should consider it," he said, his eyes shining. "This house is excellent in a wonderful area. Sarah might have her own room, perhaps even a playhouse. You would be right here. Your mother needs care. We could also let this unit be rented for some additional income. I have to say, it made sense. Mom's house was far nicer than our apartment, and the thought of not having to travel to look after her appealed. Nonetheless, it felt strange. I'm not sure, John, I said slowly. Mom's house here. We cannot just walk right in. Ask her, he insisted. I think she would enjoy the business, surely better than a nursing home. He pointed out something. Mom had made it very evident she did not want to wind up in what she described as a glorified prison for old people. This might work. I tackled the topic with Mom the following day. Her face came alive at the concept, surprisingly. "Oh, Callie," she replied, her voice frail but eager. "I would really want that. This old house needs some life in it once more." And it was decided exactly like that. We were moving into Mom's house. I felt, as I began to pack our flat, that this was the beginning of something significant. Simply said, I was unsure whether it was positive or negative. Regarding the relocation, John was really thrilled. He kept talking about the man cave he had built in the basement and the garden he planned. Even Sarah appeared happy about a larger space. Moving to Mom's place presented a whole fresh set of difficulties. I soon came to see that caring for a stroke patient required a full-time job, one I was not qualified for by myself. Following a week of restless nights and stress-filled days, I paid a nurse to assist throughout the day. Jenny, the nurse, was a gift, taking care of Mom's basic needs. She arrived every morning at 8 and stayed until 6, but evenings and nights fell on me. Exhausted from work, I would have come home only to begin my second shift, tending to Mom. Her speech had suffered since the stroke, which left her angry and usually mute. Giving her as much dignity as I could in the process, I would change her diaper. The sponge wash, the medications, the massage to prevent atrophying her muscles, and last dinner came next. Work was physically and emotionally demanding. Every day, seeing my bright, independent mother lowered to this level shattered my heart. Still, I did it because I loved her, because she would have done for me. Sarah's attitude to her grandmother's illness surprised me. At 11, I felt she would be mature enough to understand and assist even. Boy, I guess I was mistaken. One evening on my way to Mom's chamber, I watched Sarah dash past with a hand tightly closed over her nose. I cried out, "Sarah, where do you intend to go? Do you want to say hello to Grandma?" She shook her head really forcefully. "Absolutely not. There smells nasty in it." I stunned myself. "Sarah, that is not a good thing to say. Grandma right now needs our support and assistance." "I don't care," she spat back. "She smells terrible. I want to be close to her." She dashed to her room, slamming the door behind her before I could reply. Stunned and offended, I stood there. My darling small daughter had gone where? Turning to John for help, I discovered none. Not my problem. He would remark any time I sought assistance with Mom. I signed up for nothing like this. It stung, but I couldn't hold him totally responsible. He had not signed up for this. Nobody among us had. Still, I felt bitter as I watched him play video games with Sarah or take her out for ice cream while I was elbow-deep in adult diapers and prescription schedules. Seeing how close John and Sarah had gotten was one positive note. They had always had a nice relationship, but right now it seemed more solid than ever. I would see them gathered over Sarah's homework at the kitchen table or hear them giggling in the living room. Though it increased my isolation, it warmed my heart. 2 years passed in a haze of bedpans, drugs, and stolen sleep intervals. Mom needed continuous care even though her illness had stabilized. Though I was tired, I had discovered a beat. Then one typical Tuesday everything collapsed. The phone rang as Mom changed the linens. Mrs. Peterson was our former apartment complex neighbor. "Callie, darling," she continued, her voice tinged with anxiety, "you should know, I have been seeing John about rather a bit accompanied by company. Young ladies, different ones, always quite lovely." I said thanks to her and hung up, my head whirling. That evening, I went up to John. "Oh, those are just possible renters," he responded casually. "I'm showing them the apartment." I would have liked to believe him. Actually, I did, but uncertainty had grown like a plant from undergrowth. 1 week later, I came upon the lipstick smear. It was a lovely red kiss on the collar of his white shirt. As I held it up to the light, trying to persuade myself it was only a pen mark or a food stain, my palm shook. But I knew different. I waited to move until his next commercial trip. I unlocked our previous flat using shaking hands. Before I ever opened the bedroom door, the sounds emanating from there verified my greatest worries. John in our bed had a woman I had never seen before, though they hurried to cover themselves. Damage was done. John said, not even showing the decency to appear ashamed, "Kelly, what are you working on here?" I went silent. I simply stood there, watching the spectacle before me, and felt my universe fall apart all around. "Look," John remarked, his voice icy, "I regret you had to learn this way. Let us be honest, Kelly, though. I am bored. You are always occupied with your mother. This is fascinating." His remarks sliced through like butter. I silently turned and departed, my thoughts already racing with the next step I had to take. Things got heated during the divorce process. Despite John's best efforts, we ended up in court, where we were forced to divide our life together as if it were a set of financial assets. Next came the most challenging part, securing Sarah's custody. I was devastated by her decision, even though she was of legal voting age at 12 years old. A steady voice betrayed her desire to live with her father. I no longer desire to be in Grandma's presence. It's horrible and discouraging, and my mom is constantly pressuring me to pitch in. A sympathetic nod was given by the judge. He considered Sarah's expressed preference, John's potential stability, and John's bigger salary. John ended up with primary custody. Even though I was inconsolable, I attempted to put Sarah's needs first. John could put her through private school, dance classes, and summer camps, all of which I would be unable to provide. I felt a deep ache in my heart as I observed Sarah packing up her belongings and spoke enthusiastically about her new room at Dad's new apartment. Our agreed-upon routine for weekends and holidays appeared so organized on paper. It seemed as if I were losing control of the world. My union had ended. It was my daughter's departure. The house that remained to me was more akin to a medical facility than a place of residence. Weekends with Sarah were a lifeline during the first several months after the divorce, when things were tough. In our free time, we would visit the movies, enjoy ice cream in a park, or simply relax at home. Even while it had its flaws, it was progress. Things started to shift, albeit gradually. Sarah began to back out of her intentions. By saying, "I have a sleepover," she would explain her circumstances. Alternatively, "Dad's taking me to a concert." I did my best to be sympathetic, to play the role of the laid-back, hip parent. But I felt my stomach knot tighten with every cancellation. The frequency of the cancellations quickly increased. No one would stop by for weeks. All of my calls went to voicemail. When I tried to contact them by text, I would receive one-word replies at most. I decided to give Sarah a personal call one Sunday after yet another postponed visit. After 1 and 2 rings, the call went to voicemail. This time I was determined. This time, a machine-generated message said that the number I was attempting to contact had disabled my call forwarding. Calling John's number made my palm tremble. "What do you want, Kelly?" His tone was irritated and distant. "John, Sarah is out of my reach. I can no longer reach her." "What's happening?" There was a considerable pause. "Listen, Kelly, Sarah isn't in the mood to talk to you at the moment. It is important that you honor that." "Honor that? It's my daughter?" She is also an individual with her own set of emotions, John retorted. Plus, she isn't feeling too upbeat right now, so she would rather not spend time at your place. The illness and the depression, that is, Sarah has to feel secure. Her family needs to be more typical. Lisa has taken on the role of a mother to Sarah. There are 2 parents, no sick relatives, and no turmoil in her family life here. Tell me why you can't simply let her to be happy. I was speechless. My eyes were watering, and I was relieved that John couldn't see me. Listen, he went on, his voice becoming slightly more measured. You must accept Sarah's wishes if she does not want to see you at this time. I understand that this is difficult for you to hear. Take your time. She will be further distanced as a result. The need to yell, dispute, and assert my motherly rights washed over me. A tiny, reasonable voice inside me, though, suggested he could be correct. Sarah might be gone for all time if I tried to force things. With my phone clenched at my chest, I collapsed to the floor and wept. Sarah, my daughter, just didn't want me anymore. Her mother was playing a different role, giving her a goodnight kiss, assisting with her homework, and making up for all the time I had lost. I remained on the floor for hours after Mom discovered me. Her worried expression belied her ability to shuffle over with her walker. Callie, she proclaimed, her voice more forceful than it had been in months. What's wrong, sweetheart? As I glanced up at the woman I had cared for so many years, who had been my rock, I felt a surge of emotion. Our roles switched again at that very second. As a little girl, I would run to my mom for solace. Cry out to my mom, "Oh, Mom," as I shook her hand. She's gone. It's like losing a little angel. My mom gave me a tender squeeze, her touch tender and loving. No, Callie, she is still with you. She is currently bewildered. She will eventually return to you. You'll notice. Years 14. Time has a strange way of passing both quickly and slowly. Over the years, Mom's illness showed signs of minor improvement. Her speech and movement improved, but taking care of her was still a full-time job. My emotions were a jumble of sadness and, shamefully, relief as she slipped away in her sleep. Out of nowhere, I was standing alone in this vast, deserted home. Everyone could barely hear a sound. End of the whirring noise from medical devices. There will be no more regimented treatment and drug routines. Entire rooms brimming with memories, just me rattling about. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. Despite my lack of familiarity with the number, I could recognize the voice from anywhere, even after all these years. This is Sarah, Mom. It would be great if we could discuss in person. A cafe downtown was the agreed-upon meeting place. My palm trembled around my coffee cup as I patiently awaited. A young woman was coming in my direction. I was taken aback when I realized it was Sarah. I no longer saw the lanky preteen. A stunning young woman stepped forward to take her place. She slid into the seat across from me and said, "Hi, Mom." We started off by making awkward small conversation. Her marketing career, interests, and friends were just a few of the topics she covered with me. Then the bombshell was revealed. As she removed an envelope from her purse, she announced, "I'm getting married. Here's an invitation." A mixture of happiness and a twinge of melancholy filled my emotions. It was my daughter's wedding, and I had missed out on so much. You won't believe the good news, Sarah. That makes me glad for you. Listen, if you're in need of assistance with the payment. She interrupted me suddenly. To be honest, Mom, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to meet. My original intention was to bring up Grandma's bequest, which includes the property and her savings. I would really like to possess them. The impact was as sharp as a slap. "Excuse me." "Look, Mom," she leaned forward and murmured. "The location of that house is fantastic. It's quite valuable. Jake and I intend to make that our permanent home after the nuptials and establish a family there." Within me, a surge of anger formed. You haven't been inside that house in more than 10 years, Sarah. It was repulsive to you, you remarked. What do you mean by tomb? Her hand was waved in a contemptuous manner. Looking back, I realize I was just a little child. I am now an adult. Those were the days. I mean, come on, I am Grandma's only granddaughter. She probably would have preferred that I keep it. The news seemed so unbelievable to me. Would you have liked to have it? No one even showed up at her funeral, Sarah. Years passed with no communication from you. That's from long ago, she moaned. The thing is, I should own that house. A comfortable existence is what I deserve. Deserve? My body was trembling with anger at this point. When Grandma was sick, you did nothing to assist. I sacrificed everything for her, and now you believe you have earned her home? Sarah's expression sharpened. All right, I will sue if that is your intention. I shall recover what is justly mine. Without warning, she rose from her seat and snatched the wedding invitation off the table. Put it out of your mind. The wedding is not inviting you. Your bitterness and need for approval to take what is rightfully mine are unnecessary. I sat there, dumbfounded, as she stumped out of the cafe. All those years of loving, missing, and yearning for a daughter were gone. This icy, selfish stranger had taken her position. I don't remember much about the days that followed that catastrophic cafe meeting. Feelings of wrath, loss, and numbness vacillated within me. However, as everything calmed down, I experienced an unexpected sensation, a sense of relief. The burden of wanting to be with Sarah again and hoping for reconciliation had been lifted. A peculiar calmness had taken its place. Unfortunately, I skipped Sarah's wedding. There was no card or present for me. Rather, I volunteered at an animal shelter that day, taking solace in the unconditional love of abused and neglected animals. In a way, it seemed right. A few days later, my curiosity got the best of me, and I couldn't help but look through Sarah's social media. Glistening in her dazzling white gown, she beamed at her new spouse. The regret of lost opportunities gripped my chest for a brief second. Then I saw it, a wordy rant about her spiteful mother who skipped her wedding and kept her inheritance from her daughter. The brazenness of her lies astounded me so much so that I read it again. Some part of me wanted to say something to clarify things, but I figured that would be pointless. The reality was known by the important people, my family, who had witnessed my care for Mom throughout the years. I couldn't care less about other people's views formed on the thoughts of a complete stranger in a social media post. Jeannie, my cousin, called a week after that. According to her, Callie, I thought you should know, expressed with a blend of wrath and compassion in her voice. Sarah's been talking about suing you for your mom's estate. A familiar sigh escaped me. Let her try. That was it, Jeannie said. Her conversation with the lawyer was evident. She has no leg to stand on. He told her, it is quite evident that your mom left everything to you. It made me laugh out loud. Mom had already taken care of that, of course. She was the pragmatic type from the start. Thanks for letting me know, Jeannie, I responded. To be honest, Sarah's actions no longer bother me. She has decided what to do. On the opposite side of the phone, there was silence. Callie, I am really proud of you. Peace is something you deserve after all you've been through. Looking around the home, I hung up the phone. Home of Mom. Then it's my home. In every crevice, there were recollections, some happy, some sad. But I felt like I could breathe here for the first time in years. I made my way to the window and gazed out at the garden that Mom had cherished. I could still see out its promise despite how overgrown it had grown in previous years. Perhaps it was time to give it a new lease on life. Something clicked for me as I stood there, plotting my next visit to the garden center. Sarah had been the center of my life for so long, and now this chapter, filled with hope, grief, and longing, was coming to a close. But that was far from the end of my tale. Not at all. When the summons arrived, the garden had just blossomed. I devoted the previous 3 months to restoring it, taking comfort in the mundane task of caring for living things. I was trimming the shrubs when I noticed that Mom's beloved roses were beginning to open and their aroma wafted through the air. In my pocket, my phone beeped. A mysterious figure. For some reason, I felt compelled to answer, even though I nearly didn't. "Hello, Mom," Sarah's voice echoed over the phone line, her expression heavy with emotion. "Mom, I need your help." Grasping the pruning shears in my hand, I froze. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "Mom, we're struggling, and I'm pregnant," she said while sobbing. Somebody give me some money. I need your assistance. There must be something you can give your grandchild." As her statements grew increasingly agitated and accusing, I sat quietly and listened to her ramble on. "I was left high and dry, Mom. Now you're going to leave your grandchild, as well as the fact that you never even attempted to get in touch with me or stand up for me." Not rage, but a steady, unwavering determination. Something inside me snapped. My voice remained firm as I declared, "Sarah, that's enough." Perhaps taken aback that I had broken her rant, she went silent. "I was never going to leave you. I reliably sent child support payments on a monthly basis." I made the initial contact. It was a text message. A message was sent via email. "No longer can I reach you. Your stepmother was taken by you. Even if they hurt, I accepted the decisions you made because they were yours." "But Mom..." "Sarah, I still have more to say. You're going to have a family of your own now that you're an adult. The time has come for you to own up to your actions and the consequences of your choices. This is not a bank. No, I will not be your anchor. Also, you can't use guilt trips and outright lies to influence me." She was on the other end of the line, and I could hear her breathing heavily. "Visit your dad and stepmom if you're in need of assistance. You remember, they're your actual family. You choose them. Because of that, I am at peace. The time has come for you to accept the results of your actions." "This is impossible," Sarah sobbed. "I'm your daughter." "Yes, you are," I responded, my tone taking a little more gentle. "And the little girl you were will forever be loved by me. However, I am not familiar with the lady you have evolved into, and I am not sure I wish to be." I drew a long breath. "Sarah, farewell. No further communication from you. My best wishes are with you and your child." With a little trembling in my fingers, I hung up before she could answer. As I stood in the yard, encircled by the vibrant life I had fostered, I felt the immense weight of the recent events. Next, a gradual ascent occurred to me. I was finally free of the awful past it had been dragging me down. What-ifs finally put to rest. As far as I could tell, the home and garden were in the distance. This was my life at this point, shaped not by past mistakes or setbacks, but by the decisions I made for the future. Returning my attention to the rose bush, I retrieved my pruning shears. There was more to accomplish, more beauty to nurture. I experienced a sense of utter liberation that I had not felt in an eternity.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a 38-year-old single mother dedicated to my 10-year-old son, John. It was a typical sunny afternoon, and John was out riding his bike just a couple of blocks from our house. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where you'd never expect disaster to strike. "Be back by dinner and be careful," I had called out as he sped off, helmet securely on, his face lit up with a big grin. An hour later, I was in the kitchen when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Is this Jennifer? Your son's been in an accident," the voice on the other end said, panic clear in their tone. My heart plummeted. Grabbing my keys, I bolted out the door. When I arrived at the scene, chaos unfolded before me. Ambulance sirens wailing, neighbors gathered in shock, and there, in the middle of it all, was John, lying on the ground, clearly in pain. I rushed to his side, barely aware of the police trying to control the scene. A paramedic was tending to him. "He's got multiple injuries. We need to get him to the hospital right away," they said as they loaded him into the ambulance. It was then that I noticed my father's car nearby, its front bumper crumpled. My stomach twisted, a mix of fear and fury rising within me. At the hospital, the full scope of John's injuries was revealed. Multiple fractures and a traumatic brain injury. As the doctors prepared him for surgery, my father, John, appeared, disheveled, reeking of alcohol. "It was just an accident, Jennifer. I didn't see him. He came out of nowhere," he mumbled, his voice shaky. "Just an accident. You were drinking and driving, and you hit your own grandson," I snapped, my voice trembling with anger. "Jennifer, you know how the police blow things out of proportion. We can sort this out as a family. No need to get the law involved," he whispered urgently. I glared at him, my voice rising. "Sort this out? John could have died because of your recklessness. I'm not covering this up, I'm pressing charges." His expression hardened. "You do that, and you're no daughter of mine." He stormed off, leaving me to face the harsh reality of my decision. Pressing charges would mean tearing our family apart. But as I watched my son being wheeled into surgery, I knew I had no other choice. His safety, his life, meant more than any family loyalty. "Mom, it's going to be okay," John whispered weakly, trying to offer me a brave smile as they took him away. I squeezed his hand. "I know, honey. I'm here, and I'm going to make sure of it." The fallout was immediate. My phone buzzed nonstop with calls and texts from family members urging me to reconsider. "Family comes first, Jennifer." "He's your father," my aunt pleaded over the phone. "He nearly killed John," I shot back, my resolve hardening with every conversation. My mother, Martha, arrived at my door, her eyes red with a mix of anger and desperation. "How could you do this to us?" "To your father," she demanded. "He did this to himself, Mom, and to John. I'm protecting my son." "That's what a mother does," I replied, my voice firm. "He's disowning you, you know, rewriting his will as we speak. Is it worth it, losing your family?" she asked, her voice trembling. "If it means justice for John, yes, it's worth it," I said, standing my ground, though her words stung. As my family turned their backs on me, I found unexpected support in my neighbor Linda. She became my pillar, bringing meals, sitting with me late into the night, listening to my worries. "You're doing the right thing, Jennifer. It's not easy, but it's right," she reassured me as we watched the sunset one evening. "I just wish it didn't cost so much," I admitted, feeling the weight of my family's estrangement. "Some costs are necessary. You're teaching John to stand up for what's right. That's priceless," Linda said with a comforting smile. Days turned into weeks, and the tension only grew. My father made one last attempt to change my mind, calling me with a cold, distant voice. "Last chance, Jennifer. Drop the charges or you're out of the will. Think of your future." "My son's future is my only concern," I replied firmly. "Do what you have to, Dad. I've made my choice." As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of liberation and loss. I was free from his manipulation, but at the cost of my family ties. It was a high price, but looking at John, slowly getting better each day, I knew I had made the right choice. With Linda's help, the community rallied around us, organizing support for John's medical bills and offering the emotional comfort my family no longer provided. Her kindness reminded me that family isn't always defined by blood, but by the bonds we choose to nurture and the people who stand by us when life gets hard. As the legal proceedings against my father unfolded, each session in the courtroom felt like a battle. His lawyer painted him as a regretful grandfather who made one unfortunate mistake. "It was an accident, a tragic lapse in judgment," the lawyer argued. But I stood my ground, my voice unwavering. He chose to drink and drive. That decision almost cost my son his life. It's not just a mistake, it's a crime. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. The prosecutor, a stern-faced woman with a reputation for being tough, methodically laid out the evidence. Traffic camera footage, witness testimonies, and John's medical reports. Reliving the accident through each presentation was painful, but it was necessary. Outside the courtroom, public opinion was divided. On social media, some people supported my decision to hold my father accountable, while others accused me of tearing our family apart. "He's family, you should have handled this privately," read one comment. Another countered, "Justice has no familial boundaries. She's brave for standing up." Meanwhile, John's recovery was a slow, grueling process. Every small step forward in physical therapy was a victory, and his resilience became my beacon. Watching him struggle yet persist gave me strength I didn't know I had. "You're getting stronger every day, John," I encouraged during one of his therapy sessions as he grimaced through the pain, determined. "I want to get better, Mom, so we can ride bikes again," he said with a brave smile. One day, after an exhausting court session, I came home to find him trying to walk without his crutches. My heart leaped with both fear and pride. "Careful, John," I called out. "I can do it, Mom, look." His smile as he took those tentative steps made all the turmoil worth it. Our story caught the attention of a local news reporter who requested an interview. Reluctant but realizing it might help sway public opinion, I agreed. "Why go public with this? Why not forgive and move on?" The reporter asked during the interview. "This isn't about forgiveness. It's about accountability and protecting others from the same pain," I explained, hoping my words would resonate with those still on the fence. As the trial neared its end, the weight of the potential outcomes hung heavily over me. But regardless of the verdict, I knew I had done everything possible for John. This fight in court wasn't just about legal justice, it was about affirming our values, about showing John that standing up for what's right is the only way to live, no matter the personal cost. "I'm proud of you, Mom," John whispered one night as I tucked him in. His words echoed in the quiet room, filling me with a deep sense of pride. His simple, honest words fortified me. No matter what the verdict, we had already won the more significant battle. We had held onto our integrity, our bond. Those were victories no verdict could ever take away. The final day of the trial arrived with a heavy air. The courtroom was packed, the tension almost unbearable as we waited for the judge's decision. Despite the overwhelming evidence we presented, the defense had exploited every legal loophole, casting doubt wherever they could. The evidence presented is circumstantial at best. My client deeply regrets his actions, but this was an accident, not a deliberate act of harm, my father's lawyer concluded, giving a confident nod to the judge. As the judge began to speak, my heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear his words. While there is no doubt that Mr. J's actions were reckless, the burden of proof for intent has not been sufficiently met. His words stung like a physical blow. "Not guilty." The gavel fell, its sound shattering my hopes for legal justice. My father, looking relieved but not happy, avoided my gaze as he quickly left the courtroom. "Can you believe this?" I whispered to my friend Linda, who sat beside me, her hand gripping mine in silent support. "It's not right, Jennifer. John deserved better," she said, her voice tight with frustration. As we exited the courthouse, reporters swarmed around, their cameras clicking, questions flying like arrows. "How do you feel about the verdict?" one asked, his microphone thrust in my direction. "This isn't the end. Justice comes in many forms, and today's decision isn't where the story concludes," I said, my voice steady, though inside I felt broken. At home, John sensed the somber mood and tried to comfort me. "It's okay, Mom, we know the truth." "Yes, we do," I said, squeezing his hand and forcing a smile, though the disappointment gnawed at me. That night, unable to sleep, I scrolled aimlessly through social media, where heated discussions about our case raged on. Some expressed outrage at the verdict, while others blamed me for the family fallout. I turned off my phone, feeling more isolated than ever, but still determined to move forward. Weeks passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. John's recovery progressed, and his resilience inspired me daily, but the shadow of the trial and my father's betrayal lingered like a dark cloud over our healing. Then one rainy evening, Linda knocked on my door, her face unusually grave. "Have you heard about your father?" "No, what happened?" I braced myself for more bad news. "There's been an accident. He was driving, still drinking, and crashed." "It's bad, Jennifer. He's in the hospital." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Despite everything, he was still my father. A confusing mix of concern and a vindictive sense of poetic justice washed over me. I sat down, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Are you going to see him?" Linda asked gently. I paused, considering. "No, his path is his own now. I have to focus on what's best for John and me." Days turned into weeks, and news came that my father's injuries had left him unable to walk, his life forever altered. His financial situation had deteriorated too, with medical bills piling up, compounded by a lack of insurance due to his drinking habits. It seemed fate had delivered its own harsh verdict. "Mom, are you okay?" John's voice pulled me from my thoughts one evening as we sat watching the sunset. "I am, honey. It's just been a lot to think about. But you know what? I've realized something important through all of this." "What's that?" "That we're strong and we can handle anything as long as we have each other. And sometimes justice isn't something you get, it's something you find within yourself." John nodded, understanding far more than any child his age should. We spent the rest of the evening talking about the future, about all the things we still wanted to do and see. It was a conversation filled with hope, not despair. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding our lives. I started a support group for parents going through similar situations, using our story to help others. The community rallied around us, their support a stark contrast to the abandonment I felt from my own family. Life had come full circle in a way I never expected. While the legal system may have failed us, life's balance hadn't. My father's fate, brought on by his own choices, was a testament to that. For John and me, every new day was a step away from past hurts and a step toward a future built on our terms, defined by our resilience and fortified by true justice, the kind that doesn't come from a courtroom, but from the strength to keep moving forward despite life's obstacles. The story of Jennifer and John has reached its conclusion, but the questions it raises still linger. What do you think of Jennifer's decision not to visit her father after his accident? Was her choice to focus solely on her and John's well-being justified, or should she have forgiven her father despite the pain he caused? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hey there, I'm Karen Hartley. I'm 25, living it up in the Big Apple with more money than I know what to do with. I grew up in a massive mansion upstate, but despite the luxury, it was lonely as hell. My parents, Richard and Eleanor Hartley, were always too busy jet-setting or closing deals to pay much attention to me. I was just a pawn in their game of high society chess. "Karen, darling, stand up straight. The Vanderbilts are coming for dinner," my mom would say, fussing over my dress. "But Mom, I wanted to go to Sarah's sleepover." I'd whine. "Don't be silly. Networking is far more important than some childish party," she'd reply. That was my childhood in a nutshell, always on display, never truly seen. Fast forward to now, and I'm running my own art gallery in Soho. It's my pride and joy. "This is incredible, Karen." My best friend and assistant, Mia, gushed at our latest opening. "You've really outdone yourself this time." I smiled, but even that small movement made me wince. "Thanks, Mia. I just wish I felt as good as the gallery looks." "Still not feeling great. Maybe you should see a doctor," she said, frowning with concern. I waved her off. "It's probably just stress. You know how it is, burning the candle at both ends." But deep down, I knew it was more than that. For months, I'd been feeling off. Fatigue that sleep couldn't fix, hair falling out in clumps, and a constant queasy feeling in my stomach. Something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. "Karen, darling." My mother's voice cut through the gallery chatter like a knife. "There you are. Your father and I have been looking everywhere for you." I plastered on my best society smile. "Mom, Dad, I'm so glad you could make it." My father's hand landed heavily on my shoulder. "We wouldn't miss it for the world, Pumpkin. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, just a bit tired." I lied, not wanting to give them the satisfaction of knowing I was struggling. "Well, you must take better care of yourself," my mother tatted. "Especially with your birthday coming up. Big changes ahead, you know." "Right, my 26th birthday. The day I get full control of my trust fund. $50 million, all mine." No wonder my parents were suddenly so interested in my well-being. As the night wore on, the room started to spin. Voices blurred together, faces became smears of color. The last thing I remembered was Mia's panicked voice calling my name as the floor rushed up to meet me. "Someone call an ambulance." And then darkness. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. My so-called perfect life was about to unravel, and the truth? Well, it was far more toxic than I could have imagined. The steady beep of a heart monitor pulled me from a foggy sleep. I blinked, trying to focus on the stark white ceiling above me. "She's awake." My mother's shrill voice pierced through the haze. "Doctor, come quickly." Suddenly, I was surrounded. My parents hovered like vultures, doctors poked and prodded, questions flew from all directions. "How are you feeling, Miss Hartley? Can you tell us what happened?" Do you remember fainting at the gallery? I groaned, overwhelmed. Can everyone just give me a minute? The room cleared, leaving only my parents and one persistent doctor. Sweetheart, we've been so worried, my father said, his voice dripping with concern that felt oddly out of place. I narrowed my eyes. How long have I been here? 3 days, the doctor chimed in. We've run a battery of tests, but so far, everything's inconclusive. Great, just great. Days blurred together. More tests, more questions, but still no answers. My parents were constantly at my bedside, fussing over me in a way they never had before. It was unsettling. Mia visited whenever she could, bringing updates from the gallery and a much-needed sense of normalcy. Don't you think it's weird? She whispered one day, glancing at my parents, who were chatting with a nurse outside. They've never been this attentive before. I shrugged. Maybe they're just worried. But Mia's words planted a seed of doubt. It wasn't until a week into my hospital stay that things took a turn. A new doctor breezed into my room with an air of confidence and piercing blue eyes. Miss Hartley, I'm Dr. Alex Foster. I specialize in toxicology, and I'd like to run a few additional tests. Something about his demeanor made me sit up straighter. Toxicology? You think I've been poisoned? He smiled enigmatically. Let's not jump to conclusions. I just want to cover all our bases. As he left, a memory hit me like a truck. My 18th birthday, the day I gained partial access to my trust fund. You're an adult now, Karen, my father had said, champagne in hand. But remember, the bulk of your inheritance is still locked up tight until you're 26, for your own good, of course. I'd been so naive then, so trusting. But now? I called Mia the moment I was alone. I need you to do something for me. It's unconventional. Anything, she replied without hesitation. I want you to hire a private investigator to look into my parents' finances. There was a pause. Karen, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next few days were a whirlwind. Dr. Foster ran his tests, and Mia reported back with alarming findings from the PI. Mounting debts, failed investments, my parents teetering on the edge of financial ruin. And then the bombshell. I found these in your apartment, Maya said, holding up a bag of pills. They were hidden in your vitamin bottle, Karen. They're not vitamins. My blood ran cold. Just then, Dr. Foster walked in, his face grim. Miss Hartley, I have your test results. I'm afraid it's not good news. I steel myself, already suspecting what you was about to say. You've been subjected to long-term arsenic poisoning. Someone has been slowly killing you. The world stopped. Everything clicked into place. The sudden attentiveness, the financial troubles, my upcoming birthday and full access to the trust fund. My own parents have been poisoning me. We need to be smart, Dr. Foster whispered, his eyes darting to the door. If they suspect we're onto them. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. What's our next move? Over the next few weeks, we gathered evidence like spies in our own twisted family drama. Jake, our private investigator, delivered the final blow one rainy afternoon. There's a life insurance policy, he said, his voice heavy. If you died before your 26th birthday, they hit the jackpot. I felt the walls closing in. Every memory, every interaction with my parents was now tainted with suspicion. It was time for the final act. The family dinner was set. My parents arrived, all concerned looks and gentle touches. Karen, darling, my mother cooed, adjusting my pillows. You really should eat more. You're wasting away. I forced a weak smile. It's hard to keep anything down these days. My father patted my hand. Now. Positive thinking, remember? You'll bounce back in no time. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Actually, I wanted to talk to you both about after. After what, sweetheart? My mother asked, her voice unnaturally high. After I'm gone, I said softly. The doctors say, well, you know. The room fell silent. I could almost hear their hearts racing. I've been thinking about the trust fund, I continued, and your financial situation. My father's grip on his fork tightened. Karen, you shouldn't worry about such things. But I do, I pressed. I want to know you'll be okay, that it will all be worth it. Worth what? My mother asked sharply. I met her gaze. The tea, the special vitamins, all your efforts. The color drained from their faces. My father recovered first, his lawyer instincts kicking in. I'm not sure what you're implying, he said stiffly. We've only ever wanted what's best for you. Like the life insurance policy I didn't know about. I countered. My mother's hand flew to her throat. How did you? It doesn't matter. I cut her off. What matters is why. Why would you do this to your own daughter? The facade crumbled. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but not of remorse, of frustration. You don't understand, she hissed. We had no choice. The debts, the lifestyle we built. We did it for you, my father interjected, his voice tight, to secure your future. I laughed bitterly. By ending it? It wasn't supposed to be like this, my mother wailed. It was just supposed to make you sick enough to what? I spat. Sign everything over to you. Die conveniently before my birthday. My father stood abruptly. This conversation is over. You're clearly not in your right mind. Oh, I'm in my right mind for the first time in years, I said, my voice steady. And so are the police officers listening. The door burst open as the officers read them their rights. My parents' faces contorted with a mix of shock, anger, and finally, defeat. Karen, my mother pleaded as they were led away. We're your parents. We love you. I looked at her, this woman who had traded maternal love for greed. No, I said quietly. You don't know the meaning of the word. As the door closed behind them, I felt a weight lift off my chest, but in its place was a hollow ache, a void where my family used to be. As I focused on my recovery, the media exploded with the scandal. Headlines screamed, socialite parents poison Harris' daughter. It was surreal watching my family's dirty laundry aired for all to see. Months passed. I threw myself into my work, expanding the gallery and exploring new artistic ventures. On my 26th birthday, I gained full control of my trust fund. It felt bittersweet. To new beginnings. Mia raised her glass with a smile. To new beginnings, she toasted. And to true family, I added, clinking my glass against hers. Mia, I said, turning to her, how would you feel about becoming my business partner? Her eyes widened in surprise. Are you serious? Dead serious, I grinned. I couldn't have gotten through this without you, and you're brilliant at what you do. She hugged me tightly. I'd be honored. As we pulled apart, I caught sight of Dr. Foster, Alex, across the room. He smiled and made his way over. Congratulations, Karen, he said warmly. How does it feel to be 26? Better than I ever imagined. I replied, suddenly aware of how close we were standing. Our relationship had grown over the past months, shifting from doctor-patient to something more. A few days later, Mia burst into my office, tablet in hand. Saf, you need to see this, she exclaimed, pulling up a news article. The headline read, Disgraced lawyer Richard Hartley scammed in prison. Loses hidden assets. I skimmed the article, emotions swirling inside me. Karma, I guess, I murmured. There's more, Maya said, swiping to another article. Eleanor Hartley sentenced to 15 years for attempted murder of Harris' daughter. I sat back, processing. I should feel happy about this, right? Vindicated. Mia squeezed my shoulder. You can feel however you want to feel, Sophie. Months turned into years. My business thrived, and my relationship with Alex deepened, but there was still one loose end to tie up. The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. My parents sat across from me, looking older and defeated. Karen, my mother breathed, her voice shaking. We're so sorry. Can you ever forgive us? I looked at them, these strangers who shared my blood. I'm not here for your apology, I said calmly. I'm here to say goodbye. But we're your parents, my father protested weakly. I stood, my voice steady. No, you're not. You lost that right when you decided your greed was more important than my life. Please, my mother sobbed. We love you. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Goodbye. As I walked out of the prison, I felt lighter. The last chains of my past had finally broken. Ahead of me stretched a future full of possibility, built on my terms, with people who truly cared. I took a deep breath of fresh air. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. The story has come to an end. Now I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes, could you ever forgive parents who tried to murder you for money? Or is some betrayal too deep for forgiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments below.